The number of the beast is a term in the book of Revelation of the New Testament that is associated with the beast of Revelation in chapter 13. In most manuscripts of the New Testament and in English translations of the Bible, the number of the beast is 666. In critical editions of the Greek text, such as the Novum Testamentum Graece, it is noted that 616 is a variant. The number of the beast is described in the passage of Revelation chapter 13 verses 15 to 18. The actual number is only mentioned once, in verse 18. In the Greek manuscripts, the book of Revelation is titled The Apocalypse of John, where this number is rendered in Greek numerical form as chi, or sometimes literally as Chi Alpha Kappa Omicron Sigma Iota Omicron Iota Chi Eta Kappa Omicron Nu Tau Alpha Chi Hexacosioi Hex Conta Chi Acute Text 666. There are several interpretations, translations for the meaning of the phrase, "Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beasts," where the peculiar Greek word psi eta phi iota sigma alpha tau omega is used. Possible translations include not only to count, to reckon, but also to vote or to decide. In the Textus Receptus, derived from Byzantine text-type manuscripts, the number 666 is represented by the final three letters chi, 17 kappa alpha nu alpha mu eta tau iota sigma delta upsilon nu eta tau alpha iota gamma omicron rho alpha sigma alpha iota pi omega lambda sigma alpha iota epsilon mu chi omega nu tau chi alpha rho alpha gamma mu alpha tau nu omicron mu alpha tau omicron theta eta rho iota omicron upsilon tau nu rho iota theta mu nu tau omicron nu omicron mu alpha tau omicron sigma alpha tau omicron 18 delta epsilon sigma omicron phi iota alpha sigma tau iota nu chi omega nu tau nu omicron nu psi eta phi iota sigma alpha tau omega tau nu rho iota theta mu nu tau omicron theta eta rho iota omicron upsilon rho iota theta mu sigma gamma rho nu theta rho omega pi omicron upsilon sigma tau iota kappa alpha rho iota theta mu sigma alpha tau omicron chi. The last letter of the Greek alphabet is not the equivalent of the English letter Z but omega. The Greek letter stigma ligature represents the number 6. In the Novum Testamentum Graece, the number is represented by the final three words Chi Alpha Kappa Omicron Sigma Iota Omicron Iota Chi Eta Kappa Omicron Nu Tau Alpha Chi, meaning 666. 17 Kappa Alpha Nu Alpha Mu Eta Tau Iota Sigma Delta Upsilon Nu Eta Tau Alpha Iota Gamma Omicron Rho Alpha Sigma Alpha Iota Pi Omega Lambda Sigma Alpha Iota Epsilon Mu Chi Omega Nu Tau Chi Alpha Rho Alpha Gamma Mu Alpha Tau Nu Omicron Mu Alpha Tau Omicron Theta Eta Rho Iota Omicron Upsilon Tau Nu Rho Iota Theta Mu Nu Tau Omicron Nu Omicron Mu Alpha Tau Omicron Sigma Alpha Tau Omicron 18 Delta Epsilon Sigma Omicron Phi Iota Alpha Sigma Tau Iota Nu Chi Omega Nu Omicron Nu Psi Eta Phi Iota Sigma Alpha Tau Omega Tau Nu Rho Iota Theta Mu Nu Tau Omicron Theta Eta Rho Iota Omicron Upsilon Rho Iota Theta Mu Sigma Gamma Rho Nu Theta Rho Omega Pi Omicron Upsilon Sigma Tau Iota Nu Kappa Alpha Rho Iota Theta Mu Sigma Alpha Tau Omicron Chi Alpha Kappa Omicron Sigma Iota Omicron Iota Chi Eta Kappa Omicron Nu Tau Alpha Chi. Although ISNI affirmed the number to be 666 and reported several scribal errors of the number, a minority of theologians have doubts about the traditional reading because of the appearance of the figure 616 in the Codex Ephraemi Rescriptus, as well as in the Latin version of Tychonius, and in an ancient Armenian version. Irenaeus knew about the 616 reading, but did not adopt it. In the 380s, correcting the existing Latin language version of the New Testament, Jerome retained 666. Around 2005, a fragment from Papyrus 115, taken from the Oxyrhynchus site, was discovered at the Oxford University's Ashmolean Museum. It gave the beast's number as 616 Chi Iota. This fragment is the oldest manuscript of Revelation chapter 13 found as of 2015. The age of a manuscript is not an indicator of the date of its writing but refers to how old the physical material is. All original biblical manuscripts are non-existent today, as they were held and copied onto new materials. Eventually the originals fell apart, leaving fragments for a period and then only the copies, so the oldest texts might actually be found among the newest copies. Codex Ephraemi Rescriptus, known before the P115 finding but dating to after it, has 616 written in full. Xi alpha kappa omicron sigma iota omicron iota delta epsilon kappa alpha xi hexacosioe decahex. Papyrus 115 and Ephraemi Rescriptus have led some scholars to regard 616 as the original number of the beast. According to Paul Lewis, the number 666 has been substituted for 616 either by analogy with 888, the number of Jesus, or because it is a triangular number, the sum of the first 36 numbers. Interpretations. Interpreting the identity and the number of the beast usually falls into three categories: using gematria to calculate the number of a world leader's name, in order to match it with the number of the beast, associating the number of the beast as the duration of the beast's reign, corresponding symbolism for the Antichrist and anti-Christian power. Identification by gematria in Greek, isopsophy in Hebrew gematria. Every letter has a corresponding numeric value. Summing these numbers gives a numeric value to a word or name. The use of isopsophy to calculate the number of the beast is used in many of the below interpretations. Neo-preterist theologians typically support the numerical interpretation that 666 is the equivalent of the name and title Nero Caesar, a manner of speaking against the emperor without the Roman authorities knowing. Also, Nero Caesar in the Hebrew alphabet is NRONQSR, which when used as numbers represent 50, 200, 6, 50, 100, 60, 200, which add to 666. The Greek term chi alpha rho alpha gamma mu alpha was most commonly used for imprints on documents or coins. Charagma is well attested to have been an imperial seal of the Roman Empire used on official documents during the 1st and 2nd centuries. In the reign of Emperor Decius, those who did not possess the certificate of sacrifice to Caesar could not pursue trades, a prohibition that conceivably goes back to Nero, reminding one of Revelation chapter 13 verse 17. Preterists argue that Revelation was written before the destruction of the temple, with Nero exiling John to Patmos. Most scholars, however, argue it was written after Nero committed suicide in AD 68. The Catholic Encyclopedia has noted that Revelation was written during the latter part of the reign of the Roman Emperor Domitian, probably in AD 95 and 96. Additional Protestant scholars are in agreement, because some believe Revelation chapter 13 speaks of a future prophetic event: all who dwell on the earth will worship him, whose names have not been written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. Some have argued that the interpretation of Nero meeting the fulfillment is an impossibility if Revelation was written around 30 years after the death death of Nero. However, rumors circulated that Nero had not really died and would return to power. It has also been suggested that the numerical reference to Nero was a code to imply but not directly point at Emperor Domitian, whose style of rulership resembled that of Nero and who put the people of Asia, whom the Book of Revelation was primarily addressed to at the time, under heavy taxation. The popular Nero Redivivus legend stating that Nero would return to life can also be noted. After Nero's suicide in AD 68, there was a widespread belief, especially in the eastern provinces, that he was not dead and somehow would return. Suetonius relates how court astrologers had predicted Nero's fall but that he would have power in the east, and, indeed, at least 3 false claimants did present themselves as Nero Redivivus. An Aramaic scroll from Wadi Murabba, dated to the 2nd year of Emperor Nero, refers to him by his name and title. In Hebrew it is Nronqsr. In Latin it is Nronqsr. Nronqsr. The Greek version of the name and title transliterates into Hebrew as and yields a numerical value of 666, as shown. Nronqsr. The Latin version of the name drops the second nun, so that it appears as Nro and transliterates into Hebrew as, yielding 616. Muhammad gematria has also been used with the word Mahometis, which scholars have described as a dubiously obscure Latinization of a Greek transliteration of the Arabic name Muhammad. In Quia Maya, the encyclical calling for the Fifth Crusade, Pope Innocent III identifies Muhammad with the Beast of Revelation, although later popes did not. Euthamius Zygarbinus and Zonaras wrote the name as Mahomet, and Citrinus wrote the name Mushume, none of which is the Mahometis in question. A leading exponent of the Mahometis interpretation was Charles Walmsley, the Roman Catholic Bishop of Rama. Other proponents include Gilbert Ginebrid, François Fouardant, and René Massuet, 16th–17th century Catholic theologians. Mahometis in Greek numerals totals 666. In the 1923 book The Number and Names of the Apocalyptic Beasts, David Thom rejects Mahometis as a valid translation, observing that of the 7 different ways in which Muhammad's name is written in Euthamius and the Byzantine historians, not one is the orthography in question. None of the given spellings add up to 666 under Greek gematria. Mark of the beast. The classical Greek word charagma, translated as mark in Revelation chapter 13 verse 16, can also mean any mark engraved, imprinted, or branded, stamped money, document or coin. Preterist view. A common preterist view of the mark of the beast is the stamped image of the emperor's head on every coin of the Roman Empire, the stamp on the hand or in the mind of all, without which no one could buy or sell. New Testament scholar Craig C. Hill says, it is far more probable that the mark symbolizes the all-embracing economic power of Rome, whose very coinage bore the emperor's image and conveyed his claims to divinity. It had become increasingly difficult for Christians to function in a world in which public life, including the economic life of the trade guilds, required participation in idolatry. Adela Yarbrough Collins further denotes that the refusal to use Roman coins resulted in the condition where no man might buy or sell. A similar view is offered by Craig R. Coester. As sales were made, people used coins that bore the images of Rome's gods and emperors. Thus each transaction that used such coins was a reminder that people were advancing themselves economically by relying on political powers that did not recognize the true God. In 66, when Nero was emperor, about the time some scholars say Revelation was written, the Jews revolted against Rome and coined their own money. The passage is also seen as an antithetical parallelism to the Jewish institution of tefillin, Hebrew Bible texts worn bound to the arm and the forehead during daily prayer. Instead of binding their allegiance to God to their arm and head, the place is instead taken with people's allegiance to the beast. Idealist view. Idealism, also known as the allegorical or symbolic approach, is an interpretation of the Book of Revelation that sees the imagery of the book as non-literal symbols. The idealist perspective on the number of the beast rejects gematria, envisioning the number not as a code to be broken, but a symbol to be understood. Idealists would contend that because there are so many names that can come to 666 and that most systems require converting names to other languages, or adding titles when convenient, it has been impossible to come to a consensus. Given that numbers are used figuratively throughout the Book of Revelation, idealists interpret this number figuratively as well. The common suggestion is that because 7 is a number of completeness and is associated with the divine, that 6 is incomplete and the 3 sixes are inherently incomplete. The number is therefore suggestive that the dragon and his beasts are completely inadequate. Another suggestion is that this number represents an individual's incomplete or immature spiritual state. Futurist view. A futurist view of the mark of the beast is that the rise of a supranational currency could be a hallmark of the end times, and that the mark of the beast will be a sign on the forehead or on the right hand. Futurists believe that the Revelation addresses primarily the second coming of Christ and similar events at the time's end, although many define truth in these general assertions. This view does not bring to light many events others, such as historicists claim, precede the time of the end. Religious difficulties with the world currency currently exist. According to the futurist view, to overcome the extant difficulties, the Antichrist will use forced religious syncretism to enable the creation of the currency. Some interpret the mark as a requirement for all commerce to mean that the mark might actually be an object with the function of a credit card, such as RFID microchip implants. In Christianity, some believe the implantation of chips may be the imprinting of the mark of the beast, prophesied to be a requirement for all trade, and a precursor to the events of the second half of the Book of Revelation. Historicist view. Historicists believe Revelation articulates a full range of the history of the Christian Church, from John's day to the second coming of Christ. The author alludes to Daniel chapter 2 verse 28 and 45. Daniel's vision uses symbols giving a sequence of future events in history, for the Babylonian Empire, through Medo-Persian period, Greece and Rome, continuing until the end of the current civilization. This apocalyptic volume builds on Daniel's approach, focusing on major points of Christian history, the cross, the second coming and more, as parts of Daniel appear not to involve predictions of history. Attention to the text of Revelation to know just how John and Jesus intended us to apply each vision might be paid. Seventh-day Adventists taking this view believe that the mark of the beast refers to a future, universal, legally enforced Sunday worship. Those who reject God's memorial of creatorship, the Bible's Sabbath, choosing to worship and honor a Sunday in the full knowledge that it is not God's appointed day of worship, will receive the mark of the beast. Single quote. The Sunday Sabbath is purely a child of the papacy. It is the mark of the beast. Numerical significance. Baha'i. In the writings of the Baha'i faith, Abdul Baha states that the numerical value given to the beast referred to the year when the Umayyad ruler Muawiyah I, who opposed the Imamate, according to the beliefs of Shia Islam, took office as caliph in 661 AD, who continued to pay the tax required of non-believers and were excluded from government and the military, and thus bore a social mark. Jehovah's Witnesses. Jehovah's Witnesses believe that the beast identified by the number 666 represents the world's unified governments in opposition to God. The beast is said to have a human number, in that the represented governments are of a human origin rather than spirit entities. The number 666 is said to identify gross shortcoming and failure in the eyes of Jehovah, in contrast to the number 7, which is seen as symbolizing perfection. Kabbalah. In Kabbalistic Judaism, the number 666 represents the creation and perfection of the world. The world was created in 6 days, and there are 6 cardinal directions. 6 is also the numerical value of one of the letters of God's name. Fear and superstition. Some avoid the number 666 out of superstition. Our irrational fear of the number is called hexacosia or hexcontrahexaphobia, though the word is mainly used humorously because of its length. This word is derived from ancient Greek roots Xi alpha kappa omicron sigma iota omicron iota Xi eta kappa omicron nu tau alpha, and Xi, literally meaning a fear of 666. In 1989, Nancy and Ronald Reagan, when moving to the home in the Bel Air section of Los Angeles after the 1988 election, had its address, 666th Street, Cloud Road, changed to 668 St. Cloud Road. The phobia has been a motif in various horror films such as The Omen and its 2006 remake. The number of the beast also appears in other films such as Pulp Fiction, The Doom Generation, End of Days, Bedazzled, and The Phantom of the Opera. Some women have expressed concern about giving birth on June 6, 2006. In November 2013, Cody Thacker, a cross-country runner at Whitley County High School in Williamsburg, Kentucky, refused to run in her Kentucky High School Athletic Association regional meet, forfeiting a chance at qualifying for the state championships, when her coach drew bib number 666. In 2015, U.S. Representative Joe Batten had the number of a legislative bill he had introduced changed from 666 to 702 because the original bill number carried many different negative connotations, according to a spokesperson.